Andrew Pfeiffer here from Pfeiffer Law in Akron, Ohio. Thanks for coming back as we continue on our probate video series. We've been talking through different aspects of full administrations. We've been talking about creditors' claims and fiduciary roles and what are the aspects of a full administration in Ohio. Today, the topic I'd like to take on is who is responsible for debts of an estate, right? And what property is actually used to pay creditors' claims or debts that are validly presented against an estate. The first thing I'd like you to see is the estate of the decedent, right? The decedent's estate is the primary party responsible for paying debts related to or held by the decedent. These are unsecured creditors' claims, right? This is not somebody who has a mortgage filed or has a security interest filed. These are unsecured creditors' claims. And particularly, I'm setting aside Medicaid as well. Medicaid is a specific and special type of creditor to which there are very special rules that apply to them. But I want you to see that the primary party responsible for payment of debts of the decedent is the decedent's estate. A question that I get often is a surviving spouse liable? Do they have to come out of pocket for things that were debts of the decedent? And I will say typically the answer is no. There are some exceptions, right? One exception is if the spouses were jointly liable on, for example, a line of credit or a credit card, then yes, the surviving spouse could be liable simply because they signed on to be responsible for that debt during the decedent's life with them as a joint party. And there is also what's called the doctrine of necessaries, where if a surviving spouse is providing certain necessaries to the decedent right around the time of death, related to often medical care and things, they can be responsible. A surviving spouse can, but for the most part, the answer is no. So that takes us back to, now that we know that it's the estate of the decedent that's primarily responsible for debts, what property is used to pay debts of a decedent and what property isn't? And so probate property, right? The idea that you die with something in only your name, now it's a probate asset. That is the property that's subject to creditors' claims. And typically speaking, again, leaving Medicaid out and setting Medicaid aside, but property that passes outside of probate via a trust or a beneficiary designation, a TOD or a POD beneficiary designation on an asset or an account, typically that property is exempt, is not used to pay debts of the decedent. So this is just another example of why avoiding probate through non-probate transfer techniques is huge. And hopefully we've got a little bit more understanding on who is responsible for debts when someone dies, a decedent in Ohio. Thanks so much for tuning in to my probate series. I hope this was helpful to you and your family.